Everybody says the Oklahoma City Thunder are the perfect example of how to properly execute a rebuild. And it's hard to argue with them considering they just won an NBA championship. But I would argue that the Detroit Pistons are the exact way that the Kings are trying to rebuild. We'll talk about that, how the Pistons manhandled the Kings, Nique Clifford's impressive second half after Keegan Murray's injury, the veterans, and more right here on Locked On Kings.
You are Locked On Kings, your daily Sacramento Kings podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, it is that time for another episode of Locked On Kings.
Hello and welcome into Locked On Kings, your podcast hub for Sacramento Kings coverage all season long. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Before tip-off, check the FanDuel app and see what's dropping during NBA Happy Hour every Friday from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. My name is Matt George. I have the privilege of being your host here. I'm a Sacramento sports anchor reporter for ABC 10 News. The Kings lose to the Detroit Pistons 136-127. And like I said in the introduction, like the Oklahoma City Thunder, who lost to the San Antonio Spurs again tonight, by the way. It's only their fourth loss of the season, so it's not like gods can bleed, apparently, but they're still an incredibly good team that should be the odds-on favorite to win another championship. Side note, by the way, and I know I harp too much on the San Antonio Spurs because De'Aaron Fox plays for them, but if we can get an Oklahoma City Thunder and San Antonio Spurs playoff series, please, basketball gods, that's all I ask for. All right, back to the show, Matt. OKC is great, an amazing model, I think, for general managers, for front offices. Like, just look what Sam Presti was able to do with OKC. Properly executing trades, right? Taking advantage of circumstances of other teams, fleecing the Los Angeles Clippers in that Paul George trade to get Shai Gilgeous-Alexander a haul of picks, continuing to stockpile picks to where they have 3 or 4 picks in this year's draft, including potentially a top 3 pick because they own the LA Clippers pick. Like the in so many ways, like the Thunder this is how you can not necessarily tank correctly, because I think it's actually undermining or not giving full deserved credit to the Thunder of how Sam Presti has been able to build this now empire in OKC over the years. Sure, they were bad. And yes, there were times that Shai Gilgeous-Alexander did not play. They kept him out so that they could lose basketball games and secure draft picks, but they also hit home runs on the draft and found ways to stockpile players, young assets, guys that worked well together that fit the mold of where the NBA is going, long, athletic defenders to surround a superstar in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, right? The Thunder are a wonderful example. And if you could tell me the Kings could become the Thunder, I'd be beyond elated. But since Scott Perry has taken over, and knowing what we know about who Doug Christie is as a player, talking about defense, harping on defense over offense all the time, the Detroit Pistons, I think, are the perfect example of how the Sacramento Kings want to do it. Like, I think everything that you hear Scott Perry describe what he wants his team to be, the Detroit Pistons embody it. And even Doug Christie was asked by James Ham after the game tonight, like, are the Pistons who you want to be? And Doug didn't even let him finish the question. He's like, yep, like that's who we want. A team that plays hard, that plays physical, and in your face, smash mouth type basketball team. Like, that's who they're all about. And this is coming off of a game where, yeah, the Kings did beat the Houston Rockets, but the Rockets are a lot of that same way, right? The Houston Rockets are a team that have embodied Ime Udoka and kind of the attitude that he plays with, and this take no prisoners, F you, will fight you type attitude. Doug is very much like that. So these last 2 teams that the Kings have played have done what the Kings are trying to do effectively. Neither of them have won a championship yet. Maybe they're on their way to doing that. The Pistons, to be fair, are the number 1 team in the Eastern Conference right now. But I think we can look at the Thunder, and we can even look at the Golden State Warriors dynasty and go, oh, that's the dream. That's what you want to build. But that's like, we're talking almost perfect scenario. The Detroit Pistons are a model that you can follow, right? You have a good balance of young / prime players. You have a star that you drafted in Cade Cunningham, and you have some established veterans like a Tobias Harris, a Duncan Robinson that fit well, that make it work there. You got a young, super talented big in Duran, right? Like that's just a very reasonably built NBA team that doesn't have 3-4 stars on it, but it's just a really, really good group. And it was a gradual build. The Pistons were really bad just a couple of years ago, but year after year, they've built, they've not taken shortcuts, they've done it the right way, made the right moves, stayed patient, trusted in their process, and bam, here they are. Granted, it's only December, but they're the top team in the Eastern Conference right now. And they're a team that I don't know how many people are truly going to label them a championship contender, but they deserve to be in the conversation of a team that could be an Eastern Conference champion and a team that should be making a deep playoff run, or everyone's going to be very surprised and disappointed, I think, at this point, if the Pistons are not a team that's pushing second, third round of the NBA playoffs minimum. But tonight's game specifically, if we're being honest, there's things I could be nitpicky about for sure, but how can I really be mad at this game tonight? It went exactly how it should. Like, the Pistons are clearly the better team. They were the better team the entire night. They built a lead early and kept the Kings at arm length the entire night. I give the Kings credit. Like, they were down 24 points at one point in this game. They battled back. They got it around like 10, 11 points so many times over the course of this game, and the Pistons would immediately answer with like a 6-0, 7-0 run to make it a 17, 18-point game. And it was like, we did all that hard work, and here we are. It's still hovering around 20. But they kept pushing. They kept fighting. The Kings made it a game at the end, right? They got to within single digits, held the Pistons to 21 points in the fourth quarter, which I take as a victory, right? Now, granted, they did give up a boatload of points in the other three quarters, right? It was 37 points in the first quarter, 38 points in the second quarter, 40 points in the third quarter. So one good quarter defensively doesn't erase three terrible ones. And the Kings defense was dominated in this game. Defense, if you can even call it that. It annoys me, and it annoys a lot of people, that Doug Christie only talks about defense. Because the offense isn't good either. And I've talked about this a lot on Locked On Kings this season. Like, you ask Doug Christie a question about the offense, and he either obviously goes, we're not talking about offense, we got defense matters, or he'll just straight talk about defense and almost ignore your question altogether. I asked him a question before the Rockets game about Nique Clifford looking more comfortable on the offensive end. He straight up answered, it's because of his defense. I'm like, okay. Doug will not even address the offense. It's defense, 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 defense. And that can be annoying, considering the Kings offense is not fine like he said it is before. But on a night like tonight, I'm like, yeah, you know what? We don't have to talk about the offense. We can talk about the defense, because the Kings still scored 127 points. Offensively, it wasn't a great game for the Kings by any means, but they played well enough to win. And they largely on the backs of their veterans, by the way. We'll talk about Russell Westbrook and DeMar DeRozan, especially in the next segment. But the Pistons dominated the Kings defense. The Kings defense for most of this game was wet paper. The Pistons had 70 points in the paint, 27 fast break points. Another perfect example of, a lot of the scoring for Detroit came in transition, and that's Doug Christie's whole point. If we get stops on the defensive end, we get out in transition, we have better opportunities to score, and Doug Christie's all about sharing the ball offensively, the ball having energy. The Pistons had 38 assists tonight, which I believe is a season high. So again, the Pistons are the example of exactly who the Sacramento Kings want to be and how Doug Christie wants them to play. They're also a glaring example of how far this organization has to go even to get to that point. But that's okay. I enjoyed watching tonight's game. Yes, there were parts that were boring, and I was like, oh, God, especially when Keegan went down with an injury and we found out he wasn't going to play in the second half. I'm like, what the hell am I watching for? Well, it ended up being a pretty entertaining second half. Good fight from the Sacramento Kings, so I'm happy with that. But it was good to also see the Detroit Pistons and look at them and go, wow, that really is the model of how the Sacramento Kings are trying to do it. And it is achievable, because the Pistons, they're not a massive free agency destination. They hit their drafts. They got lucky in the lottery too, that's for sure. They hit their draft picks. They built it the right way. So it's possible that the Kings can do it in Sacramento too. So I left the Golden One Center feeling, I guess, encouraged by that. and also encouraged by specific aspects and elements of how the Kings played. Look, I was very critical. I even admitted, like, grinchy. I was very grinchy after the Kings win against the Houston Rockets on Sunday. And I gave the Kings their credit and the veterans their credit for that win as well, winning in overtime. But I shared with you, I did speak a segment on why I was grinchy about offensively what DeMar DeRozan and Russell Westbrook were doing or not doing. And I still feel a certain type of way about that stuff. But I also want to talk about how important those two are to the development of the Sacramento Kings young guys. We'll talk about that. You're going to hear from Doug Christie and Nique Clifford. Plus, yep, we got to talk about Malik Monk and Keon Ellis again. That's all still coming here on Locked On Kings. Like I said at the top of the show, this episode of Locked On Kings is brought to you by FanDuel. NFL Sundays move fast. One big play, and suddenly everything feels different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds, every drive, every momentum shift, every highlight moment. Live betting is best when a game starts to shift, a receiver gets hot, a defense tightens up, or the momentum flips after a big turnover. FanDuel lets you jump into the moment with live spreads and money lines that adjust instantly. Player props update as guys heat up. You can bet who scores the next touchdown, drive results, totals, and more. It keeps you locked into every snap, every drive, every possibility. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and you can place your NFL live bets all season long with FanDuel. The game moves fast, and so can you. So a lot of my comment section was mad at me after the Rockets post-game podcast. Matt, you still found a way to be negative. Doesn't matter what these veterans do, you'll find a way to be negative. And again, I admitted in the podcast that it was kind of a grinchy take and a grinchy attitude to have, but it also, it didn't make it totally wrong. And I'm not going to I'm not saying this to defend myself or anything like that. Like, watching those guys play, I think I'm justified in my frustrations that sometimes DeMar DeRozan and Russell Westbrook don't pass the freaking ball. And sometimes the offense comes to a screeching halt when both of them are on the floor. And if there's any sharing of the basketball, it's happening between the two of them. Guys, it happened tonight too. It did. And right now, I am looking at the Sacramento Kings as the thing that's important for this Kings team at this point is using the time that they have to get young guys opportunities as much as possible. But let me be clear, that does not mean that DeMar DeRozan and Russell Westbrook shouldn't be on the floor and shouldn't be who they are and shouldn't be looking to score and keep the Sacramento Kings in games so that these aren't blowouts every single night and that the Kings are getting actual meaningful competitive minutes for their young guys. That's what they did tonight. DeMar DeRozan was really, really good. Really good in this game tonight. Without DeMar DeRozan, the Kings are down by 30 or 40 points in the first half, for sure. DeMar had 37 points, 12 of 18 from the field, 13 of 15 from the foul line, also had 8 assists, which led the Sacramento Kings. Second game in a row where DeMar was distributing really, really well, so it's not like he was a ball hog or anything like that. The Kings offense got off to a really slow start in this game, except for DeMar DeRozan. DeMar, truly, the Kings would have been down by 40 points early in the second quarter if DeMar DeRozan didn't start the way that he started. And then slowly, he bought the Kings time for their offense to wake up a little bit. Like Russell Westbrook. Russell Westbrook started really slow in this game. He was 0 for 5. And then he finished the first half, I think, with 9 points, all of them late in the second quarter. He started to wake up a little bit. He ended up finishing with 27 points, 18 of which came in the second half. So Russ got going too, and Russ was very important too, and part of the reason why the Kings were able to make a push and make it a game there in the fourth quarter. But still, they're not perfect. And I'm not using that but to tear them down for any positives. In fact, I'm going to do the opposite. Because even if sometimes I'm frustrated, you're frustrated, anybody's frustrated going, why didn't DeMar DeRozan pass the ball there? Why is DeMar taking this many shots? Why is Russell Westbrook taking this many shots? Why won't they just get the ball to Nique Clifford and let him cook, or Keegan Murray or whoever, and let them cook and let them go? It is important to recognize that those two, and I'll even throw, I think we can throw Dennis Schroeder into this mix too. The three of those guys are great examples of what long, successful NBA careers look like. In the case of DeMar DeRozan and Russell Westbrook, they've been in the league a long freaking time, almost 2 decades. They've been healthy. They've won so many different games, scoring titles, like an MVP for Russell Westbrook, DeMar DeRozan, both of them first ballot Hall of Famers. Like, we know, and those guys in that locker room, Nique Clifford, Maxime Reynaud, these guys, they know that they can learn from these guys who have done things the right way, who have been absolute pros. And I will also give them this. Not only are they leaders in the locker room with how to handle yourselves the right way, they've been leaders on the floor with the effort, the way that they play. Like, that's one thing about Russell Westbrook that I absolutely adore. You know exactly how Russ is going to play every single game. It may result in sporadic moments and dumb decisions at times. Hey, that's the Russell Westbrook experience, and none of us can say like we wouldn't do the same thing if we had his athleticism and his talent level. Sometimes it gets him into trouble. Sometimes it makes you roll your eyes or go, dang it, Russ. Like, we've all experienced it before. But there's also the great moments. And there's the constant energy, the constant effort, the example of how to play, regardless of if you're 6-23 or whatever the Kings are now, like 7-23 or not. And DeMar DeRozan has been playing really, really well since the Kings have kind of embraced this youth movement. And DeMar and Russ have taken on responsibility of leading these guys by example. I asked before tonight's game, I asked Doug Christie about the veterans and their impact on these young guys.
Doug, I know these veterans, Russ, DeMar in particular, of course, they're motivated by trying to win as much as possible, but how have you seen them embrace the ushering in the next era, the next generation, and taking on the challenge of leading in that sense?
You know, one of the things that I love about both of those guys is the way that they compete, the way that they're professional, and the way they come in and try to help our young players. Because, you know, you go through tough times and that does not define you, but it actually exposes the character that you truly do have. And to the man, they come in, they watch their film, they talk, they do all the little things that as these young players continue to develop, those are the character traits that we want them to embrace, and I appreciate them for that.
I want to talk about Nique Clifford really quickly, too. I thought Nique was very impressive and stepped up with Keegan Murray going out. Keegan hurt his calf at the end of the first half. I think he was experiencing some sort of calf soreness. We didn't get an update on the status of it and how he felt after the game. The good news is the Kings have 3 days off. They're off Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, and the day after Christmas. They return to action for a matinee game on Saturday against the Dallas Mavericks at 2:00. So hopefully he's right as rain and good to play in that game, because 1, the Kings will need him, and 2, it's a lot less fun watching the Kings when Keegan Murray isn't playing, especially right now. But Nique Clifford stepped up, started in place of Keegan in the second half, and his second half I thought was really encouraging. He finished with 14 points, 5 of 10 from the field, 2 of 5 from three-point range, a couple steals, a couple rebounds. All of his points were in the second half. 7 of his points came in the fourth quarter, and once again, he's showing us on the offensive end. Defensively, he did some good things too, playing with physicality on the defensive end, which I know Doug Christie is really happy with. But offensively, second game in a row where he shows us all 3 levels. Right? He knocked down a couple threes, shot him with confidence. They looked great. He even missed a 3 that I thought was a perfect shot. He relocated into the corner. The Kings found him, and he shot it in rhythm. It just rimmed out, but a great looking shot for him. He did a really good job hunting and picking the right spots to keep that spacing open, to get that good look. He had a play where he, off the dribble, kind of broke down the defense, worked his way around the top of the key, took a mid-range jumper, nothing but net, great shot, and then got an opportunity on a scramble. The ball came to him, and he had a wide open lane into the paint, and he went in there and threw down a one-handed slam. And he's gone for that dunk a couple of times and been met at the rim, and it hasn't gone too well for him. It's good to see him actually execute on it. After the game, I asked Doug Christie about Nique Clifford's performance.
Doug, big shoes to fill for Nique, starting the second half in place of Keegan, especially defensively. I thought he put in a really good shift, especially in that fourth quarter. Yeah. What do you make of a rookie just taking the opportunities given to him?
You know, he continues to grow. I was happy to see him knock down that 3. You know, just trying to make sure that he's growing. One of the areas is when he gets the ball, you know, I don't want him looking around. Go. You got the ability to go. Put pressure on everybody. Make them run with you. His physicality on defense, trying to accept the challenge with Cade. There was one right in front of our bench where he jumped at the end, and that's learning how to accept the physicality, get your feet quickly and jump and contest without fouling. I like the attack on the rim. I told him, like, listen, if you get a chance, don't be shy. Go introduce yourself, say hello, and that can go a couple different ways, and that's all right. Because you got to find out about that. And it was really good to see him get downhill and attack the rim. Great young player, man. And it's a lot of fun to watch them figure it out on the fly, because it can be difficult sometimes. And no better way than playing against, one of the 1, 2, 3 top defenses in the league with physicality and all that to start to figure it out for him. So super excited with what I saw from him, especially in that second half.
And real quick, to further illustrate my point of how important these veterans are to the young players, here's what Nique Clifford had to say. He was answering a question initially about DeMar DeRozan, but you can hear how much he appreciates the veterans and his motivations to try and turn the season around for them.
I mean, his ability to get buckets it's obvious. He's done it for so long. He's one of the top scorers in league history. Like, it speaks for itself. Like, he's a super high level player, and I'm honored to be on the same team as him. So, it's unfortunate the way our season's going. A guy like that and Russ and guys who have done it for so long, like, they deserve better than what we've been showing. And I just want to help provide a better season for them, in their later couple years. They don't deserve to, be a part of what we're going through right now. So, we got to turn it around and all be better as a team. But, we're still learning how to play together and figure everything out. So it's a work in progress, again, like I said.
This episode of the Locked On Kings podcast is also brought to you by Robinhood. Nobody knows your money goals better than you. Robinhood puts you in control of your money with tools that work as hard as you do. Locking into every opening, beating your PR, and beating it again. Channel that drive into your money. Robinhood puts you in control of your money. You trade stocks, ETFs, options, features, and crypto all on one platform. You can now build and execute your own trades from a desktop with Robinhood Legends advanced tools, or take advantage of the new Robinhood Strategies with a tailored portfolio managed by a team of experts. You expect more from yourself, so expect more from your money. Get started today at Robinhood.com/yourmoney. Again, that's Robinhood.com/yourmoney. Your money, your move. Feels like a broken record at this point, but once again, we got to talk about Keon Ellis and Malik Monk. These two that are connected for reasons that probably frustrate both of them. When one of them plays, the other one doesn't. That's just how it seems to be right now. And once again, Keon Ellis got the opportunity initially to come in off the bench. He played 4 minutes and was bad. Again, he was bad. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I love Keon just as much as you guys do. I'm not here to rip on the guy at all. He did not play well. He hasn't played well. He doesn't look comfortable. He's obviously frustrated. He has no rhythm right now. And the reality is, two things are true. They're both true. Number one, it is hard to expect the best out of Keon Ellis when you have given him such an inconsistent playing time, an inconsistent role. There's a lack of clarity with who he is and what his role is supposed to be and how he's supposed to impact this team and when he's going to play and when he's not going to play and who's in front of him and who's behind him and who's going to get the opportunity on any given night. I'm not even going to pretend that Keon Ellis' situation is easy to deal with. And I'm sure it is 10 times as frustrating for him as it is for all of us going, Doug Christie, you say you want defense. Keon Ellis is right here. Why aren't you playing him 20 plus minutes a night? It's frustrating. But the other part of that is when you do play, regardless of when you're getting on the floor, you have to make more of an impact on the game than Keon Ellis is. He hasn't been making an impact consistently. The reason why he got 30 minutes in Portland was because he did make that impact. He got 5 steals. He played well in that game. So he got extended playing time. But in the last 3 games, when Keon has come in, he hasn't played well at all, which is the reason why he got yanked and Malik Monk got that opportunity. If Keon wants to solidify that he deserves those 20 plus minutes a night, that he deserves a bigger payday, a new contract, then he's got to play like it. I know that's so simple and easy for an unathletic loser podcast host like myself to say, sitting in my chair and eating cookies and popcorn while watching the game. I get that completely. But Keon knows he has to play better. And this is a results league. And he's also being put in a very, very difficult and in many ways unfair situation with how he's been treated. And that sounds like maybe how he's been treated is not the right term. How he's being used or not used this season. And I know he's not the only King that feels that way. Malik Monk played the rest of the game, just shy of 14 minutes, was fine. Malik did some good, like the energy changes when Malik is on the floor. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Second straight game where the loudest ovation was for Malik. He started getting applause just walking to the table before he even checked in. Like the fans are locked in on where Malik is. They love that dude. 9 points, 2 of 4 from three-point range, a rebound, an assist, a couple steals. Again, played 14 minutes. I'm just warning you ahead of time, y'all. Like Malik is more than likely going to be traded. It's only a matter of time before Malik is gone. Like there was a report that came out. I think it was Chris Haynes that put out a report that the Kings are making Malik Monk available. Yeah, duh. He's been available. Malik Monk's been available since Scott Perry took over. Malik Monk was available all offseason. He was available in potential sign and trade to Detroit. He was available in the Jonathan Kuminga Golden State Warriors conversations. Duh, Malik Monk is available. And it's clear that Malik is not part of the long-term plan in Sacramento. He's not part of Scott Perry's vision. And the Kings, I believe, can get value for Malik and are going to absolutely try their hardest to get value and move on from Malik at this trade deadline. And when they do, Kings fans are not going to be happy about it. And I don't blame them one bit for it. Tomorrow's Christmas Eve. Actually, at the time this podcast is going out, it is Christmas Eve. So I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful Christmas, a great time with your family, your friends. You get some rest over these next few days with no Kings basketball. You enjoy the NBA basketball on Christmas Day and daydream about the Kings once again playing on Christmas Day again and being amongst the top teams in the league that the league wants to showcase and hopefully compete for a title. We'll get there. We will get there. We will be watching Kings basketball on Christmas Day or watching a game together in the Golden One Center on Christmas Day someday in the future. It's going to happen. Let's manifest it. But I want to just take this moment to say thank you. Thank you just for everything. This has been another wonderful year for me professionally, a great year for not just Locked On Kings, but the Locked On Podcast Network. I am so unbelievably blessed in so many ways. And just no matter what the future holds, no matter what 2026 brings, I want to make sure you know how thankful I am for all of you, those of you who approach me at Kings games. I got to meet Hunter today at a Kings game. Hunter, you're the best, man. I appreciate it. I got to talk Lord of the Rings with him as well as Kings. Love that. Like, all of you mean so much to me. Those of you who I've never met, but reach out to me, send me emails. Even if I'm not able to get back to you, send me DMs on Twitter or Instagram. Reach out to me from all across the world. Like, I'm so grateful for all of you. And I want to be the absolute best that I can be and provide the absolute best content I can for you. And I'm committed to continuing to do that no matter what the future holds. So thank you. Have a very Merry Christmas. We will be back after Christmas. I'm not sure if I'll do an episode on the 26th. Maybe I will, but definitely after the Kings and Mavericks game on the 27th. So I hope to see you then. Until then, have a great time. Open a present or two for me, and I'll talk with you very, very soon. Until then, my name is Matt George. You've been listening to the Locked On Kings podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network.